Hi, I'm Christopher Walker with Closely Observed English. In this video, I'm going to be talking again about speaking assessment for B2 First and First for Schools. This time I'm going to turn my attention to one of the marks given to you by the assessor in the speaking paper, the person sitting at the back of the room quietly judging you. The first area that they look at is called grammar and vocabulary. So I'm going to tell you what is expected for a band 3, which is about a pass, and band 5, which is the top of the scale. We'll talk about the differences, and I'm also going to talk about the things that you can do to help yourself prepare for that part of the speaking, or for that side of the assessment. So the first part of the description for a band 3 then is that the candidate shows a good degree of control of simple grammatical forms and attempts some complex grammatical forms. So this side obviously is looking at the grammar. So what does it mean when they talk about a good degree of control? Nobody expects you to use perfect English. At B2 level, definitely not. Even at C2 level, nobody expects your English to be absolutely perfect. But they do expect a good degree at B2 level. And what that means is that the grammar that you choose will help to share the meaning that you're thinking of. Okay, so if we're thinking of simple grammatical forms, that would be obviously the difference between present simple and past simple to start us off. So if you use present simple the wrong way to talk about a past event, that would be a mistake. You need to choose the past simple form to talk about things that happened yesterday. So if you say, yesterday I go to the shops, you're communicating the idea of what you did yesterday, but you're not using a good degree of control of that simple grammatical form. Another way of looking at this would be to think about the third person S at the end of verbs in present simple. I go, you go, but he, she, it goes with the S. So remembering that, paying attention to that, will help to show that you have a good degree of control of simple grammatical forms. And attempts some complex grammatical forms. When we think of complex grammatical forms, obviously we're thinking of things like conditionals. Second conditional, where you talk about the present time, but you use past forms of the verb to show that you're not talking about the real world, but an imagined one. That's pretty complex. But they don't expect you to do it perfectly. They want you to attempt. So if you try to use second conditional, for example, and you make a mistake, it's okay as long as you communicate the idea. So one thing that you can do to help build some of this complex grammar into what you say would be to start thinking about set phrases. For example, you could say in the exam, if it were up to me, I would, bum, bum, bum. So we use this to talk about like our preferences for something, usually when we don't have control. So maybe in part 3, when you're talking with your partner and you're sharing a discussion on a topic, maybe the topic is about what the government needs to do to make people healthy. Well, that's up to the government. But you might have an opinion. You might say, if it were up to me, I would stop people from buying unhealthy food. So that first chunk, you can learn it before the exam, practice using it to share your opinion, and then when you go into the exam, it's a nice piece of more complex grammar that you can use to try and boost your grammar mark a little bit. The next description talks about vocabulary, and it says that the candidate uses a range of appropriate vocabulary to give and exchange views on a range of familiar topics. So we have this word range a couple of times. So what does that mean? Well, range talks about the variety of language you use. If you say I like, I like, I like, I like, that doesn't show very good range. One way to change that would be to say I like. Something I like is. One of the things I quite like is. Actually, I really do like this. And that's still using like. Then you can change the verb to something else. You could say, although many people prefer this, for me, this is the best. So a lot of people enjoy watching TV. I prefer reading. So again, that's showing more of a range of things. And it's talking about giving and exchanging your views. So this is where a bit of practice before the exam can really help. Don't just talk about yourself all the time. Practice dialogue instead of monologue. One way you can do that without a partner is to choose a topic, something familiar, the weather, sport, travel. Record yourself talking for about 30 seconds. Forget about it. The next day, listen to the recording and imagine it's not you talking. Imagine somebody else is talking. And now give your opinions on what you've just heard. Link what you say to what they say. And this will help stretch not just your grammar and vocabulary, but also other things that we'll be talking about in a future video. So that's all for Band 3. And Band 3 will get you a pass overall. To push higher to the top, we're looking at Band 5. For Band 5 on grammar, they say the candidate shows a good degree of control of a range of simple and some complex grammatical forms. So now to go to the higher end, first you need to be more careful with your grammar. It needs to be more accurate, more controlled. Next, you need to use more forms of grammar. If every sentence you say uses only present simple, that will not get you to Band 5. Even if you never make a mistake, the language you use will just be too simple. So you need to introduce other ways of saying things, other grammatical forms. For vocabulary, it says, uses a range of appropriate vocabulary to give and exchange views on a wide range of familiar topics. So it's very similar as we heard before, but now it's going to be a wider range of familiar topics. So this is where you need to think. Listen to examples of B2 First speaking on the internet, see what topics they talk about, make a list of all the topics and ask yourself, how many of these topics can I talk about? If you can talk about half of the topics, that's great. And that will help you get to Band 3. But if you can talk about all of the topics, even the ones that don't interest you, that's going to help push you to Band 5. So that was a quick guide to the grammar and vocabulary part of assessment in the speaking paper for B2 and B2 First and First for Schools. There are 3 other areas that I'm going to be talking about in the next videos, so stay tuned and I'll see you next time.